Shalom, shalom, peace and blessings. Now let's get straight to it. All right, so this is going to be Ephesians chapter 2. Hey, can you mute their microphone? All right, it's going to be Ephesians chapter 2, the breakdown for that. And also this will be part 2. On part 1, we got to around verse 12. So we'll just start at the top and read on down. We may pull a few precepts just kind of off the cuff, but I did have the lesson starting around verse 13 where we left off at. But let's just start from the top, and we may get a few precepts here and there.
It's the book of Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 1. And you hath he quickened, who were dead in trespasses and sins.
All right, so last time we learned that quicken meant to be brought back alive, and that's what Yahweh does for us. So that's what that means, to be quickened, because in the resurrection, you're going to be, if you're selected to be brought back to life, then that's it right there. You know, you're going to be, defeated death at that time. So you'll be quickened. So likewise in this life, if you made alive in Yahweh, you brought back to life from the dead, because without that, you destined to be a part of the lake of fire. So you see, it's double fold. It's not just in this life. It's in the next as well. So Yahweh is literally saving you from eternal damnation, as they call it. But really, being thrown in that lake of fire means you're going to be burnt alive and never brought back. All right, but let's get the next verse.
Verse 2, wherein in times past ye walked according to the course of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit that now worketh in the children of disobedience.
Con. Yo, can y'all see that?
I can.
brother Drew alive?
He got a lot going on. I don't know.
I didn't even know you could do that. But brother, right over the scriptures. But
Salak, my junk tripping. I don't know what was going on, Salak.
It's all good, brother. It's all good. So where in times past you walked according to the course of this world. So we know that if you're a friend of the world, you're an enemy to the Most High, right? So that's what this means here, according to the prince of the power of the air. All right. The prince of the power of the air is Satan, or any left-hand side energy, basically. All right. So let's what we got here? We can pull this, just something real quick, because we want to get to the main part of the lesson. But let's get 2 Corinthians 4:4.
It's the book of 2 Corinthians, chapter 4 and verse 4. In whom the God of this world hath blinded the minds of them which believe not, lest the lights of the glorious gospel of Hamashiach, who is in the image of the Most High, should shine unto them.
All right, so that's the God of this world. All right, the God of this world is Satan. Why is that? Because Satan encompasses the vast majority of everyone on planet Earth. That's what they're really dealing with, whether they know it or not. There's a lot of people that know it and they're proud of it. And then you have a lot of people that they don't even know that they serve Satan, but they do. It's a sad reality or truth, but it is the truth. Remember, you can only be hot or you can be cold, and that's it. All right. We can grab that real quick, actually. We talked about that last time as well. All right. Am I tripping? Revelation. What's that hot or cold at?
Should be right there.
Yeah, right here. That's right. Let's get Revelation chapter 3 and verse 15.
It's the book of Revelation, chapter 3 and verse 15. I know thy works, that thou art neither cold nor hot. I would thou wert cold or hot.
Okay, you were neither cold nor hot, so you trying to play the middle. That's what most people do. You know, they're not hiding this thing for the Most High. They're not, you know, when nobody is around, they're not really trying to serve the Lord for real. All right, because that's what it all comes down to. It's not about the garments that you wear or the things that you profess in front of men. It's when nobody else is around. What are your, you know, what are your actions then? What are your thoughts then? All right, most people, it's neither hot or cold. Next verse.
Verse 16. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I will spew thee out of my mouth.
I will spew thee out of thy mouth, out of my mouth. Meaning when it comes time for judgment, you're going to be cast out. All right. Neither hot nor cold. There is no lukewarm in this thing. That's why I said most people on planet Earth up in the 90% or so percentile, probably around 99% percentile, really serve Satan. That may sound like an alarming number or may sound like nonsense, but if you really add it up, that's just how it is. All right. Well, that's enough on that. I think we got the point. Let's go to verse 3.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 2 and verse 3. Among whom also we had our conversation in times past in the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and were by nature the children of wrath, even as others.
All right, so that's pretty self-explanatory. All right, in the past, the lust of our flesh, fulfilling the desires of our flesh and of the mind. All right, so when our people were out in these other countries serving other gods, we were fulfilling the lust of our flesh. All right. Did I want to grab some? That First Peter. We could grab that real quick. You know, and now we good. Let's keep going.
God. Verse 4. But the Most High, who is rich in mercy, for his great love wherewith he loved us.
Wherewith he loved us. When you see the word us or our in words like that in the scripture, it's not referring to just anyone that reads it. All right, because this epistle or letter was written to a specific people. It wasn't just passed around to just anyone in the land of Ephesus. Okay, so nowhere else in the Bible will you read any other nation where the Most High professes loved him outside of the nation of Israel. That's it. That's why it says wherewith he loved us. All right. Guess we can grab some on that real quick. We can grab that First Kings. Let's get First Kings chapter 10 and verse 9, Baba Kashah.
The book of First Kings chapter 10 and verse 9. Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighted in thee, to set thee on the throne of Israel, because the Lord loved Israel forever.
You say love all nations forever?
Because the Lord loved Israel forever. Therefore may he thee king to do judgment and justice.
All right, because the Most High loved Israel forever. All right, that's why Paul said the same thing, wherewith he loved us. He's referring back to the scriptures, man. He's referring back to First Kings chapter 10 and all throughout the scriptures. All right, we know the many verses in Deuteronomy chapter 7 and verse 6 and the 4th chapter as well. So the Most High has always cast his love upon our people. All right, we just don't understand that. This is not referring to all nations when it says us. Let the Bible explain the Bible. not just what you think is right or what feels good to you. All right, let's keep going.
Book of Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 5. Even when we were dead in sins, hath quickened us together with Hamashiach. By grace ye are saved.
Keep going.
And hath raised us up together and made us sit together in heavenly places in Hamashiach Yahushua.
Yeah, that word us again. It's talking about our people quickened together with Christ, because Christ came for the children of Israel. All right, by grace you are saved, because the Most High through his Son had to give you that grace so you be saved out of the world. All right, keep going.
Verse 7, that in the ages to come he might show the exceeding riches of his grace in his kindness toward us through Hamashiach Yahushua. For by grace ye are saved through faith, and that not of yourselves, it is the gift of the Most High.
It's a gift. Let's keep going.
Verse 9, not of works, lest any man should boast.
So it's not anything that you've done, so you shouldn't boast about it. Well, because I kept this law, the Most High gave me grace. Not so. All right, it was all up to the Most High, all up into his election before you even in your mother's womb. You know, if you were called to this faith, it was because of the Most High only. There's nothing that you could have done. All right, because we all out here just playing out our role. The Most High has already programmed every single word, every single hair on our head. All right, all of our steps, everybody we gonna meet, who we not gonna meet, the places we gonna go, it's all been written. So there's nothing that you can do. You know, it's nothing. When I say nothing you can do, I mean from a standpoint of your own righteousness. Even if you keep the law, even if you claim to love the Most High, that's not what's going to be what's going to save you. It's going to be the Most High. All right, let's keep on.
Verse 10, for we are his workmanship, created in Hamashiach Yahushua unto good works, which the Most High have before ordained that we should walk in them.
All right, see, that's why it says before ordained. And for those that don't know, we did part 1 of Ephesians 2 already. So that's why we just blowing through these verses, but we have plenty of scriptures to go along with what I was explaining there, so that we will walk in them. Let's keep going.
It's a lot.
Con. Can you hear me?
I can pick up.
All right.
Well, verse 11.
Con.
This is the book of Ephesians, chapter 2, verse 11. Wherefore remember that ye being in time past Gentiles in the flesh, who are called uncircumcision by that which is called the circumcision in the flesh made by hands.
All right. So that's referring to the southern kingdom. Okay. They were circumcised. So they were supposed to be the righteous ones. They are the homeborn Israelites in the land. All right. But you had the quote unquote Gentiles here. I say quote unquote because that's just really another byword, just like everything else. You know, like the word black, Negro, African American. That's all a byword to explain the children of Israel. All right, and Gentiles, that's really just a word to explain what the seed line actually is, which is Israel. But anyway, those are the Gentiles being referenced here, the northern kingdom. But we're going to get more on that. Let's keep going.
Verse 12, that at that time you were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel and strangers from the covenants of promise, having no hope and without the Most High in the world.
You see, it says being aliens from the commonwealth of Israel. It does not say anything about the commonwealth of planet Earth or of any other nation of people. That's why Paul is bringing this out. You know, again, why would Paul be saying this in Ephesians, and then in Galatians, he's talking about all nations of people. In Galatians 3rd chapter, now he's talking about a different set of Gentiles. Well, I'm talking about Israel in this one chapter, but the rest of the chapters, I'm talking about, you know, random nations, which really, when people read Gentiles, they really be thinking of so-called white man, to be honest. Mugs don't be thinking about nobody else.
Nobody
You know, everybody trying to save the Indians, the African man, you know, the Asian man. Ain't nobody trying to save them. They really be thinking this, talking about the so-called white man, because y'all really thinking in y'all heart without saying it. Well, they put us in slavery, but Paul said it's all good. That's what y'all really thinking in your inward parts. I know you.
Also, that's their God. That's why they say.
Absolutely. God, the word God means power. And if that's who you look to for power, for inspiration, you then worship that entity. So it may sound far-fetched, but a lot of our people, the so-called white man is their God. Like, just straight up and down. All right, but don't look past this and act like it ain't here now. That at that time you were without Christ, being aliens from a commonwealth, which we looked at this on the last, with the last lesson. We looked at this word commonwealth, which means administration of civil affairs, a state or commonwealth, citizenship, the rights of a citizen. So Paul is saying that you were, at that time you were without Christ, being aliens from the commonwealth or the citizenship of Israel, because you were off into foreign lands and strangers from the covenants of promise. That's it. No other nation of people were said to be scattered. It's very simple. But now let's get into the verses though, because I don't want anybody to see this and they thinking I'm just going off the top. We already went into the verses, but let's go into verse 13 now.
It's the book of Ephesians, chapter 2 and verse 13. But now in Hamashiach Yahushua, ye who sometimes were afar off are made nigh by the blood of Hamashiach.
All right, you are far off. So this is twofold if you think about it, because we talked about Israel being into other lands. All right, you see here, this map, it says the diasporas 4th century BC to 2nd century AD. All right. Actually, we got a verse I don't think I pulled up yet about the diaspora. But anyway, this is where Israel, the nation of Israel, was all scattered to, at least some of the places they were scattered to. It may be hard to see this. I don't know if y'all can see it, but you have different, you got Thessalonica right here, which is where the people that were written to in the book of Thessalonians. All right. Corinth is right here. This is where the book of Corinthians comes from. Ephesus, the book we read right now, the book of Ephesians, the book of Romans from Rome right here. See, we were scattered into all these places. Galatia, the book of Galatians. All right, we were scattered into all these different lands. No other people were said to be scattered. So at times we are far off from the land. This is the land right here. This is where our people were supposed to be at. But we got shipped off all these different places. Okay. Over here, even in Africa. Okay. So we had Israelites in Africa. All right. And this one says migration of the lost 10 tribes of Israel. This is actually a little bit before as well, where you can see we were all in Europe with it as well. You know, the word Saxons or Anglo-Saxons, that's really our people as well. That just comes from the word Isaac. Saxon without the I is just Isaac, the sons of Isaac. All right, because they knew who their lineage were. Over here, Norsemen, in Finland, all these different France, okay, all these different European countries that you know about right now, where the so-called white man dwells today, were originally where our people were. Now, of course, that's a whole nother breakdown, but you know, even the so-called white man acknowledges that the 10 tribes of Israel were scattered all over the place. Okay, so we were sometimes afar off and made nigh by the blood of Christ. Nigh means near. All right. Like in the book of Acts, you see where, like in the 2nd chapter, you see where, you know, all the Israelites were coming back into the land. All right. They were coming back into the land to keep, they were keeping Pentecost. They were keeping all the holy days, actually, that you have to come back to Jerusalem for. All right. So, you know, if it wasn't for Yahushua, they wouldn't have ever done that. So Yahushua, you know, he broke down that middle wall of partition like we just about to read. So let's go ahead and get that. Slot, let's get Isaiah chapter 59, verse 1 and 2.
It's the book of Isaiah, chapter 59 and verse 1. Behold, the Lord's hand is not shortened, that it cannot save, neither his ear heavy, that it cannot hear.
All right, so if the Most High don't do something, it's because he chooses not to. It's not because he can't. All right, let's keep going.
Verse 2, but your iniquities have separated between you and your God, and your sins have hid his face from you, that he will not hear.
So it was our people's sin that separated them from the Most High. All right, separated us from the land to go to all these foreign lands where you have all these different customs and everything being kept all at the same time. All right, I know, you know, a lot of us on here, we probably got, just in the US, we probably got family, you know, in Alabama, then you got family in Detroit, then you got family all in Denver, Colorado, or something like that. Brothers might be in New Mexico, you know, brothers in New Jersey, things like that. You know, it's the same thing. Your family being split. But in this case, it was because of sin. We turned our back on the Most High. We didn't keep his statute, laws, and commandments. All right. So let's get verse 14 now.
The book of Ephesians, chapter 2 and verse 14. For he is our peace, who hath made both one, and have broken down the middle wall of partition between us.
Okay, he is our peace. He hath made both one. What both is this? Both means two, right? So what both is Paul referring to? You know, these so-called scholars would tell you that this was referring to Israelites and all the other nations. But that just doesn't make any sense here, because when were all the other nations and the Israelites ever made one in the first place? When were they ever one? When in the Bible did the other nations in Israel get along together? The Most High was constantly telling us not to deal with them, not to take on their customs and their ways, like in Jeremiah, the 10th chapter. All right. So the Most High never commanded the Israelites to cleave on to the other nations. So how could this be referring to them? All right. Before we get the main prophecy that's going to explain that, let's get this definition here for the middle wall partition. This word partition here. So partition, a hedge, a fence, that which separates, prevents two from coming together, prevents two from coming together. That's the two kingdoms. Okay. It's not referring to all nations of people. I mean, come on, man. All nations. Like, you can't just lump everybody into one lump like that and just claim they accepting the Lord out of nowhere. All right. Oh yeah, but like I was saying, before we read this next prophecy, let's get a reminder real quick in Isaiah 55:11. Can brothers hear me?
I got it. This is the book of Isaiah, chapter 55, verse 11. So shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. Okay,
so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. This is the Most High speaking here. It shall not return unto me void. It's not going to come back empty. That means if the Most High speaks it, it becomes. It is. All right, the Most High don't talk for no reason. So when you see these scriptures in the quote unquote Old Testament, it's not in there for no reason. Even the laws of the Levitical priests that we no longer keep now because of Christ, that's not in there for no reason. Nothing, not a single word is in the Bible for no reason. Not a single word. Okay, so you can't just disregard scripture just because you think it doesn't apply anymore. Unless the Most High say it don't apply, it applies. Okay, so with that being said, let's get Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 15 on down. All right, I'll read it. This is the book of Ezekiel chapter 37 and verse 15. It says, the word of the Lord came again unto me, saying, moreover, thou son of man, take thee one stick and write upon it for Judah and for the children of Israel, his companions. All right, it says the children of Israel is his companions. Sounds like two to me, one stick. All right, then take
another stick and write upon it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and for all the house of Israel, his companions.
Okay, so we got two sticks here. One stick for Judah. All right, and then another stick for Ephraim. Ephraim represents the northern kingdom. Okay. And if we're going to go into the northern and southern kingdom a little bit more on this lesson, but we talked about that last time. Okay. But remember, Paul said, who hath made both one and have broken down the middle wall partition between us. Remember, I told you us is referring to the children of Israel. So when you read the Bible, you want to look for, when you read something like this, you want to see where this was explained elsewhere in the Bible, not what you think makes sense to you, because your comprehension is nothing. All right. And your thoughts is wicked. All right, let's keep going.
Verse 17. And join them one to another into one stick, and they shall become one in thine hand.
All right. So, and join them one into another into one stick, breaking down that middle wall partition between us. Both made one. Who hath made both one? Two sticks being made one shall become one in thine hand. See, this is lining up perfectly right now. All right, let's keep going.
Verse 18. And when the children of thy people shall speak unto thee, saying, wilt thou not show us what thou meanest by these?
So can I get the breakdown of what that means?
Say unto them, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will take the stick of Joseph, which is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Israel his fellows, and will put them with him, even with the stick of Judah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand.
Okay, so the stick of Judah and the stick of Ephraim, representing all 12 tribes, will be brought back into one. All right, and there shall be one in mine hand. That's exactly what Ephesians chapter 2 and 14 is saying. I mean, that's literally the same thing. Let's read that one more time.
Book of Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 14. For he is our peace, who hath made both one, and have broken down the middle wall of partition between us.
And made both one, and have broken down the middle wall partition between us. So this future prophecy right here in Ezekiel is explaining exactly what happened here with one of the missions that Christ came to do, because Christ had many missions when he came here on earth for the first time. All right. It wasn't just one singular thing that he accomplished. All right. You know, he came to reverse what Adam did. All right. That's why he was called the second Adam in 1 Corinthians chapter 15. All right. He came to restore the breach between the northern and southern kingdom. All right. He came to be the ultimate sacrifice. All right. He came to be a testimony and be that first fruits of resurrection. Now we know the resurrection is true because we had that first example of Yahushua. Now we can have faith on him through his example, because when it says he was the first fruit, he was the first one to actually die and be a death and be risen up and never die again. Everybody else that was resurrected, they died again. All right, but he was the first one to actually fall asleep and then be risen up. And that's the same thing that's going to happen to those, to the elect. All right. And that's why in the scriptures it's called falling asleep. Because if you're the elect, you already immortal right now, you might as well say. Because once you resurrected, you've already defeated death. Those that are resurrected first, like it says in 1 Thessalonians, the 4th chapter, you've already defeated death. It's over with at that point. All right. But this is one of the missions that Christ had when he came here. All right. But you know what? That's pretty much the point in Ezekiel chapter 37. All right. And this is a lot that we can go into, but we really just dealing with this chapter and explaining these verses here. But some of the topics that we're talking about, you know, involve their own breakdowns. Now let's get verse 15 though.
It's the book of Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 15. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances, for to make in himself twain one new man, so making peace.
So let's break this down. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity. So what is enmity? What is enmity? Let's get the concordance. Strong's G 2189. Ektra. It says enmity. The KJV translates this word in the following manner: enmity, hatred, enmity, cause of enmity. And let's see what this Oxford talking about here. It says the state of feeling or being actively opposed or hostile to someone or something. To someone or something. And look at the example here. Decades of enmity between two countries. So normally it's a conflict, animosity, hostility, bad blood, hatred, hate, spite, grudges between two entities normally. But I mean, this could be used in other examples as well, but especially between, two sides, two opposing sides. And that's what was going on with our people. All right. The in-between between the nation of Israel and the other nations is not something that ever be abolished. All right. That's why Yahushua said he's coming back to put his foot down on his enemies, which are the other nations, especially those chiefly the head of the other nations that put our people into captivity and bondage to this day. Okay. When Yahushua comes back, he putting his feet on their head. They're going to be destroyed. But anyway, back to this verse. Having abolished in his flesh the enmity, even the law of commandments contained in ordinances. All right. For to make in himself of twain one new man, so making peace. All right. Twain also means two. So one new man, just like we read in the book of Ezekiel, even with the stick of Judah, make them one stick, and they shall be one in mine hand. Make myself twain or two, one new man, so making peace. Okay. But that's why we titled this The Beef of the Two Kingdoms, because we about to get some examples here. For time's sake, we look like we're running way over than what I wanted to at this point, but it's all good. We're going to see what we can do. We want to talk about this word enmity here, and we want to talk about the beef that the two kingdoms had, because this went on all throughout the scriptures. But if you weren't paying attention to it, you wouldn't really understand. That's why we got to go into these accounts. So let's talk about the beef that the two kingdoms had. All right. Now, you can take this thing all the way back to the book of Genesis with Joseph, okay? And we know Joseph was the father of Ephraim. Ephraim was the chief chief tribe over the northern kingdom, okay? Let's start with verse 3 for time's sake. Genesis chapter 37 and verse 3, Baba Kasha.
This is the book of Genesis, chapter 37 and verse 3. Now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children, because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors.
Israel is referring to Jacob, the man that was the progenitor, or he started the nation of Israel. All right, like Paul is an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin. He came from Israel's loins. Okay, so that's his son, many generations in between. That's when it says Israel is referring to the man Israel. All right, it says love Joseph. And we all know Joseph. They talk about Joseph in church. They failed to mention that he was an Israelite, but it's all good. But we know Joseph more than all his children. So that caused strife right there in itself. You understand? And you know what? Again, for time's sake, I think we all know what happened here in Joseph's dream, where you had his brothers. They thought the dream that Joseph had, meant that they were going to have, that Joseph was going to have dominion over them. And that's where they got jealous, ended up selling, Joseph. So that was the beginning of the strife that you see. And we have other examples as well. Let's keep bringing them out. Let's get Leviticus chapter 24 and verse 22.
The book of Leviticus chapter 24 and verse 22. Ye shall have one manner of law, as well for the stranger, as for one of your own country, for I am the Lord your God.
Okay, so all throughout the law, you will see one manner of law for those that were born in the land of Israel, and then you see different laws that you would deal with the Israelites that were born outside of the land. Like on this example, this map, Again, this is a land here, and then you have Israelites. Before we were vastly scattered, you had Israelites that were living in other lands as well. Okay. But the point is, the reason I went to this is this caused, some strife as well, because you had the Israelites that were born in the land, and this would be all 12 of the tribes here. You had the Israelites born in the land, that started getting prideful, thinking they were better than the Israelites that weren't born in the land. And let me be clear and say that I'm not saying this was of the Most High, by the way. I'm saying that's what our people did. You understand? They like, oh, I'm from the land. You a stranger. All right. So that's just different enmity that was building up between the homeborn Israelites and those that were born in another land. All right. So let's see, for time's sake, do I want to get this? Let's see if we can run through this real quick. Let's get Joshua chapter 17 and verse 12. All right, I'll read it. This is the book of Joshua chapter 17 and verse.
I was on mute, my bad. Yet the children of Manasseh could not drive out the inhabitants of those cities, but the Canaanites would dwell in that land.
All right, so I'm kind of throw you in the middle here, but once we read it, we'll get the context. We'll bring it out. Let's keep going.
Verse 13. Yet it came to pass when the children of Israel were waxing strong that they put the Canaanites to tribute, but did not utterly drive them out.
So when the children of Israel brought into the land over here, they were supposed to utterly destroy the Canaanites that lived there before them. All right. And this is around the time that you had Moses deliver the children of Israel out of Egypt when they came out of the wilderness into the Holy Land. You had Canaanites living right here in Israel before, and they were supposed to utterly destroy them, meaning, kill all of them. But then you had the children of Manasseh, which is one of the 12 tribes, that didn't do so. But let's get to the point. Let's keep going.
Verse 14. And the children of Joseph spake unto Joshua, saying, Why hast thou given me but one lot and one portion to inherit, seeing I am a great people, for as much as the Lord hath blessed me hitherto?
This is another thing that caused enmity between the 12 tribes. So you had certain tribes like Manasseh here, they felt like they didn't get enough land. All right, so you see the 12 tribes of Israel here. It says around 1200 to 1050 BC, according to the book of Joshua. Now, with these 12 tribes here, they were given certain lots of land. All right, but some of the tribes felt like their lot was not big enough. Okay, again, this enmity between the 12 tribes, it goes way back. Okay, so when Paul is bringing this out, you have to understand there's a lot of history behind everything that went on between our people. So that's why this is one of Yahushua missions when he came back. That's how strong this hatred was between our people, between the southern and the northern kingdom, because of all these little things that are adding up throughout the annals of history. All right, throughout hundreds of years, all these things are adding up. Okay, because our people, we used to keep all of our history. We used to know all of this. We had the scriptures, we had oral history, meaning being passed down from generation to generation. Now we don't even pass down our own family history, let alone, hundreds of years of history. Like Paul in the book of Galatians talked about Abraham, because the Israelites that he was talking to, they knew that was their forefather. So we would keep that history. It's just how this hatred got to be so great, this enmity. That's why, that word was used, enmity, not even hatred, is, the enmity between our two people. Between our people, the two kingdoms, the northern and the southern kingdom. All right, let's get Judges chapter 12. And then let's start at verse 1.
It's the book of Judges, chapter 12 and verse 1. And the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and went northward and said unto Jephthah, wherefore passest thou over to fight against the children of Ammon, and didst not call us to go with thee? We will burn thine house upon thee with fire.
Don't let this go over your head. This is the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and went northward and said to Jephthah. Who is Jephthah? All right. So first, let's get some real quick. I think I had this pulled up. Let's get Genesis chapter 48 and 5 real quick.
The book of Genesis chapter 48 and verse 5. And now thy two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, which were born.
So this is in reference to Joseph. Okay. Jacob said unto Joseph, thy two sons is Ephraim and Manasseh. So Joseph's two sons were Ephraim and Manasseh. That made up the two tribes of Israel, Ephraim and Manasseh. But they were close because they were both Joseph's son. At least they were supposed to be close. But Jephthah is from the tribe of Manasseh. So you have two tribes that's supposed to be brothers. They're supposed to be real close to kin because they know they came from the same forefather, that being Joseph, which Joseph came from Jacob or Israel, same man. But still, you have Ephraimites going up against Manassites. He said, we will burn thy house upon thee with fire. So you have your own family. This is like you have the mom side of the family and the dad side of the family or something going at it. All right, y'all related, but you trying to burn their house up with fire. Let's keep going.
Verse 2. And Jephthah said unto them, I and my people were at great strife with the children of Ammon. And when I called you, ye delivered me not out of their hands.
That's another thing. Don't let it go over your head. It says, I and my people. Now, both of these people are Israelites. So why would he be saying I and my people? He's talking about my tribe. Okay, so in the New Testament, when you see Israelites being called Gentiles, this is not anything new. The separatism that we see here is not anything new. Okay, it's been going on. Because you can read that here in Judges 12 and think this is referring to, I and my people. You could think he's referring to Israelites talking and him talking to the other nations or something like that, but that's not the case. Okay. So let's see. Now the point, that's some of the main points I wanted to go into, but if you see here that the Ephraimites and the Manassites, they straight up got into it. They were slaughtering each other, man. All right. And they even had different ways. Let's get verse 6 real quick.
Verse 6. Then said they unto him, say now, Shibboleth. And he said to Shibboleth, for he could not frame to pronounce it right. Then they took him and slew him at the passages of Jordan. And there fell at the time of the Ephraimites 42,000.
Okay, let's make some sense out of this. Now, this means corn, if I'm not mistaken, Shibboleth. But you had two tribes, both Israelites, pronouncing the same word differently. That shows you, even though we're of the same stock, you have 12 tribes of Israel. They're all Israelites, but they were a lot different. I don't want to say a lot different, but in certain cases, they were very different. like Reuben, it wasn't uncommon for you to live here in the land of the Reubenites, and you not have even been over here to the land of Naphtali. Because as you see, this is not that close. All right, a lot of tribes dwelt among each other. Okay. So, like our people, we even married within the same tribe. You know, so it's not even just about like marrying outside of your nation. Like it was a thing to only marry inside your own tribe, according to Numbers, the 36th chapter, if I'm not mistaken. So you would marry inside of your tribe. All right. And why are we going into all this? Back into the point again, so you can see why there was so much enmity of what we would call beef between our people.
It's a lot.
Khan.
Just to add on to that point, showing beef. Can I grab the book of Second Chronicles, chapter 28 and verse 8?
With the 8.
What is it?
Chapter
28.
Verse 8.
The book of Second Chronicles, chapter 28 and verse 8. And the children of Israel carried away captive of their brethren 200,000 women, sons, and daughters, and took also away much spoil from them, and brought the spoil to Samaria.
So this here showing beef between northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. This is during King. I think this is King Ahaz's reign. Yeah. Yeah. Just like showing that has always been like tribal beef and like kingdom beef within Israel.
Good.
So that's why, again, this is why Paul is going into this. So when you read in Ephesians chapter 2, you can blow by this and think it's just, oh, he's just talking about Israel and the other nations. No, it's a lot deeper than that. The answer lies in the scriptures. Okay, you got to get these accounts to really know what's going on. All right, let's get Judges chapter 20 and then verse 11.
It's the book of Judges chapter 20 and verse 11. So all the men of Israel were gathered against the city, knit together as one man.
We seen that one man again, the men of Israel. All right, keep going.
And the tribes of Israel sent men through all the tribes of Benjamin, saying, what wickedness is this that is done among you?
Now you see, they talking grimy to each other. This is tribes of Israel. You see, this is basically the northern kingdom, because a lot of times you see Israel, the house of Israel represents the northern kingdom, and the house of Judah represents the southern kingdom. But one of the tribes in the southern kingdom is the tribe of Benjamin. Okay, so you see the tribes of Israel being separated from all the tribe of Benjamin, even though Benjamin is a tribe of Israel. All right, let's keep going.
Verse 13. Now therefore deliver us the men, the children of Belial, which are in Gibeah, that we may put them to death and put away evil from Israel. But the children of Benjamin would not hearken to the voice of their brethren, the children of Israel.
See that brethren. Again, when you see that word brethren, it's referring to within tribes. It's not referring to how today you just call anybody brother. You know, so-called white brother. Hey, brother. No, it's not how it used to go down. When you see the word brethren, you know, it's referring to your actual kin, your actual tribe, your actual same seed line. All right, that's why we don't call each other the same thing that we used to. That's why we see another so-called black man, we call him brother. Oh, this brother, this and that, because that's our brethren. You understand? That's how we used to get down. That's why we do it now. It's like in the days of old. Let's get verse 14.
Verse 14. But the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities unto Gibeah to go out to battle against the children of Israel.
Now you see that this is a civil war. All right, civil war is a war fought in between your own nation. Okay, the children of Benjamin gathered themselves together out of the cities of Gibeah to go out to battle against their own brethren, the children of Israel. So you see a battle going on between the northern and southern kingdom right here. You think this was forgot about by the time this is over 1,000 years, from the time that Yahushua came on the scene, but you think they don't know about this battle? Well, really, it didn't go too far, but still, it says his civil war, Benjamin defeated. You think that the Benjamites don't remember this? You think the Judites don't remember this? You think the men of Israel on the northern kingdom, you think they don't know these scriptures? You think they don't know these accounts? They do, or they did. All right, so that's why you see, that's why you saw that enmity between the two kingdoms, because they knew these accounts. All right, it was a very rugged history that we had. Okay, and it goes back. It goes back over 1,000 years. So you got 1,000 years of beef. It's gonna take a perfect man like Yahushua to come on the scene to break that thing up. Brothers be beefing for about 2 months and things get bloody. Let alone 1,000 years, man. So, that's something to think about. Now I had this pulled up again. We went way further over than what I wanted to, but it's okay. We're gonna see what we can do. I wanted to go over the split again very quickly. Let's see what all we're gonna get out of this. Let's just see what we can do. Let's start at verse 16 in 1 Kings chapter 12.
It's the book of 1 Kings chapter 12, verse 16. So when all Israel saw that the king hearkened not unto them, the people answered the king, saying, what portion have we in David? Neither have we inheritance in the son of Jesse. To your tent, O Israel, now see thine own house, David. So Israel departed unto their tents.
To your tents, O Israel, we out. Hey, this is the Judites. Man, they got upset. Now, time won't permit us. We do have a 3-part lesson on the split of the northern and southern kingdom. 3 whole parts of it. But basically what we see here, let's get the next verse.
Verse 17. But as for the children of Israel, which dwelt in the cities of Judah, Rehoboam reigned over them.
Okay. So Rehoboam reigned over the children of Israel. Okay. So let's see. You know what? I got this pulled up. Jeroboam. This is H3379. All right. This is for Jeroboam. The people will contend. It says the first king of the northern kingdom of Israel, when the kingdom split at the death of Solomon, and the 10 tribes split from Judah and Benjamin under the kingdom under Solomon's son, Rehoboam. Idolatry was introduced at the beginning of his reign. So Jeroboam was over the northern kingdom. The northern kingdom, they began to go into idolatry. When we read the book of Hosea, you know, that's all throughout the book of Hosea, talking about the northern kingdom going into idolatry and going into sin. You got to kind of go through the accounts in First Kings and Second Kings to get all the history for it, but it was bad, man. Our people just started going way off. And this is a huge deal in Israel. This is why Paul is talking about it. I'm trying to relate all of this back to verse 14 here, because it is that deep. Okay, this is something that you can read and you think, oh, that ain't nothing too much. No, this is the reason why it says, you know, we had to be made one again. All right, because there was a wall of partition between us. Matter of fact, really, we still kind of have that going on until Yahushua comes back the second time. It is not really as much as that we have enmity between each other, but, you know, our tribes are lost. So we don't even really know what's going on until Yahushua coming back, at least all the way. All right, so Rehoboam, it says, and this is Strong's H7346. Rehoboam, people has enlarged, son of Solomon, the first king of Judah after the split of the kingdom of Israel. So keep that in mind. Rehoboam, that's Solomon's son. Jeroboam, which was one of Solomon's proteges per se, he was the first king over the northern kingdom of Israel. All right, and there's a reason that it's saying all this, because this was a big deal. That split, that was one of the biggest turning points in biblical history. Okay, that's completely looked over. That's why we had to go into 3 parts of that, because the biblical scholars and everything, they don't want to talk about it, they don't want to deal with it, but that was one of the biggest things that happened in the scriptures that completely changed, you know, everything that happened with our people. So let's I got all the history that I wanted to get on that. So let's get verse 16.
The book of Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 16. And it reads, and that he might reconcile both unto the Most High in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby.
Reconcile. It says he might reconcile both. Why is it saying both? Again, both kingdoms. We got to repeat it because the so-called black man and woman, they hard-headed. So I'm going to keep saying it. You're going to have to deal with that. But the word reconcile, what does that mean? It's something that you can read and it'll go over your head, but pay these words some attention. Reconcile says to restore to friendship or harmony, to settle or resolve differences. So how can you restore a relationship that never began in the first place? So why is Paul saying reconcile? Because both kingdoms used to be whole. That's why it says made both one. They used to be one under King David, at least 33 of his 40 years. You had all 12 tribes under one kingdom. Okay. But when the kingdom split, you had 2 opposing sides that they had hatred in between each other. They are the same people, but they called, you know, the northern kingdom, you know, different names. And for good reason too, because not only were we split, but we stopped keeping the Most High's commandments. And, you know, that's a no-no. You know, when you zealous about the word, you ain't playing that. Like Nehemiah, when he saw that the wicked Israelites, they weren't keeping the Sabbath, what he said, I'll put hands on you. You do it again, I'm going to put hands on you. And that's why, you know, we were going in on the northern kingdom like that. It's very simple once you actually understand the history. All right, but let's get verse 16 one more time.
Verse 16, and that he might reconcile both unto the Most High in one body by the cross, having slain the enmity thereby.
All right, he put that on the cross. Again, that was one of the missions that Yahweh Shah had. And I pulled up some classics real quick just to let you know that Paul in Ephesians chapter 2, or none of his writings, he was ever talking about anybody but the children of Israel. Look at this. It even says right here, all tribes are guilty. Let's get Amos chapter 3 and verse 1.
The book of Amos chapter 3 and verse 1. Hear this word that the Lord have spoken against you, O children of Israel, against the whole family, which I have brought up from the land of Egypt, saying
what?
You only have I known of all the families of the earth. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities.
You only have I known, O children of Israel, of all the families of the earth. There are other families of the earth, but you are the only ones that I've ever known. You understand? This is deep, and this is, you can't get past this. We've gotten this verse before on these lessons, but hey, we're going to get it a million other times if we need to. Therefore, I will punish you for all your iniquities. That's why you read about all these punishments in the Bible. It's always Israel being punished for the most part. Okay. The other nations, they program to do what they do. They just set up as a distraction for those that are meant to be distracted by it. They serve a purpose, the other nations do. You understand? Because they have their idols and things like that. And the Most High trying to see if you're going to succumb to it. They got their purpose, but that's not our calling. Okay? Because the Most High only knew us. He's only ever known us. Let's get Joel, another classic, 2 and 27.
It's the book of Joel, chapter 2 and verse 27. And ye shall know that I am in the midst of Israel, and that I am the Lord your God, and none else, and my people shall never be ashamed.
Why would Paul just, completely disregard the scriptures that he referenced to? The only scriptures that he had when he wrote the book of Ephesians, there was no New Testament available. There was none of these New Testament only churches that we got around here. I seen a sister wearing a t-shirt, New Testament on it. None of that existed. This is all a new thing in the earth where people think that the Lord is dealing with all nations. This is new. It's never been the case, because if you actually read the scriptures, you will read this and know that the Most High is only dealing with the children of Israel. Not because I said so. He literally said, I'm the Lord your God and none else. It's plain. It's plain, man. Now, again, for time's sake, I don't want to actually drag it on too much further as far as part 3 and everything, because most of the main points have been made. I can get more on it, but most of the main points I want to make has been made. But let's get this in another strong account here in John chapter 11. We'll start at verse 49.
It's the book of John chapter 11 and verse 49. And one of them, named Caiaphas, being the high priest that same year, said unto them, ye know nothing at all.
Okay, we can't get the context, but let's just get to the main point. Let's keep going.
Nor consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not.
Who is this one man? It's Yahweh Shai. He should die for the people. God's people, not just random people. Why the Most High would send his son for random people that he's never reckoned in the first place? Random nations. Again, y'all just think this, y'all ain't slick, man. Y'all think this, you think John 3:16 is talking about the so-called white man. You can't fool me. You understand? I know what you think is going on here, but it's not. And the whole nation perish not. That's why it says a whole nation and not nations. Just read the scriptures and it becomes plain. Let's keep going.
Verse 51. And this spake he not of himself, But being high priest that year, he prophesied that Yahushua should die for that nation.
For that nation, he prophesied that Yahushua would die for that nation. But wait, hold on, not for that nation, though. Not for that nation only. Let's keep going.
Verse 52, and not for that nation only, but that also he should gather together in one the children of the Most High that were scattered abroad.
It's fit to get this real quick. The children of God that were scattered abroad. And what does this say? To the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad.
Good.
So what he's saying is the same thing that Paul said. That's what the high priest was saying. Yahushua didn't come not just for the Israelites born in the land. He also came for the Israelites born in all these foreign places, scattered abroad. It's right there playing for you. Okay, so one of the main things that I wanted to get here was to show the beef between the two kingdoms, but also to show you that this is only referring to the 12 tribes of Israel. This, when I say this, the book of Ephesians chapter 2 in all of Paul's epistles. Okay. And our last thing that we'll get, again, we got more, but we'll just cut it short. Let's get verse 19.
The book of Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 19. Now therefore ye are no more strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and of the household of the Most High.
So now, Northern Kingdom, you were spread out into these other lands in sin. Now you back as a citizen of Israel with the saints. The saints are the children of Israel. Okay. But sin will cause you to be a stranger and a foreigner. Remember, we showed you that sin will make the Most High turn his back on you, like we got in the book of Isaiah. All right, iniquities of sin will separate you between you and your power. Okay, let's just end it here. Let's get Job chapter 19 and verse 13.
It's the book of Job chapter 19 and verse 13. He hath put my brethren far from me, and my acquaintance are verily estranged from me.
Estranged or a stranger. My brethren far from me, scattered abroad. You understand? Scattered abroad into all these different nations, my brethren. Job was a prophet. Let's keep going.
Verse 14. My kinsfolk have failed, and my familiar friends have forgotten me.
All right, let's keep going.
They that dwelt in mine house and my maids count me for a stranger. I am an alien in their sight.
I am an alien and a stranger and a foreigner, but not anymore, because Yahushua came back and said, y'all stop beefing. Okay, and you know, another way you want to remember this, think about this rather. Think about the so-called black man today. Why you think we so territorial now? You know, we always repping the hood or repping where you from. You know, we've been doing that for thousands of years. Okay. That's why, you know, Paul had to tell our people not to boast or not to talk about endless genealogies. That's referring to talking about your tribe in a prideful sense. Oh, I'm Ephraim. Y'all ain't fooling with me. If you Reuben, you know, let me go back to the tribes here. The Judites, man, y'all ain't dealing with us. Talking to the Gadites, so on and so forth. You know, the way we territorial now, repping the hoods, repping the cities that we from, we were like that before. This is talking about you. The so-called white man don't be caring about where you're from. He know you from the mountains. He don't care. Yeah, I'm from Ohio. You don't. When you ever heard that? They don't be repping where they from. Maybe their alma mater or some they college, but that's pretty much it. It's only our people that be killing folks just because you're not from the same block as them. All right. And that history lines up. But you know, that's some of the main points that I wanted to get. So hopefully, you know, hopefully y'all can see it. And with that, shalom.